When it comes to deploying Layer 4 through 7 network services such as server load balancing, firewalls, and VPNs, cloud service providers essentially have two options: an over-the-cloud approach and an under-the-cloud approach. The more you talk with those building infrastructure as a service offerings, the more it's becoming clear which approach they should take: under the cloud, not over it. From a networking perspective, the over-the-cloud deployment option has evolved as a result of limitations in current hardware and virtual appliance products on the market. It's called over the cloud because the model is not purpose-built for the cloud. You essentially take some functions and bolt them on over the cloud infrastructure you can offer, namely compute and storage. In an over-the-cloud scenario, the only infrastructure that gets truly offered as a service is a pool of compute capacity, generally implemented as a set of orchestrated virtual machines, or VMs, that you then let the user of the cloud figure out how to implement. Basically, they can load a few application workloads on some of these VMs, or they could potentially use some of the VMs for network services, typically in the form of a virtual appliance. Some cloud providers have tried to work around the limitations of the over-the-cloud model by selling pre-provisioned, preloaded virtual appliances, but there is still complexity as the cloud provider's customers must do the configuration. Despite the workaround, the reality is the only service and therefore value that the cloud service provider is adding is the initial installation of the software on the VM. If that's not enough, with an over-the-cloud model, end users must also deal with independent individual virtual appliances for each service: a load balancer from vendor X, a firewall from vendor Y, and so on. And they must learn how to configure and use each one of them. A cloud service provider offering over-the-cloud services ends up putting the complexity square in the lap of the customer. The customer is responsible for choosing, installing, configuring, operating, managing, and maintaining these network services. This creates a situation where both the customer and the cloud service provider lose, as there is little value creation and thus no business opportunity. The preferred approach for cloud service providers should be under the cloud, since it's much more optimized for the cloud. It's where the delivery of the network services has been redesigned to clearly provide all the agility, dynamic provisioning, elasticity, scale-out performance, multi-tenancy, and cost savings the cloud promises. The cloud service provider takes ownership of the complexity that is handled by the customer in the over-the-cloud model. It delivers a network service inside the infrastructure, and what it exposes to the customer is not the product, but rather the functionality, which it then delivers as a service to a customer. All of a sudden, the customer can order a service, such as a server load balancer, and have it procured and provisioned in minutes, essentially on demand, without having to worry about the complexity of implementing the service itself. It's all under one roof, or the cloud. Using the under-the-cloud approach, cloud service providers also return to their value proposition roots, where they deliver a service so that their customers don't have to worry about it. It lets cloud customers focus on providing value to their respective business and not dealing with the headaches of managing the infrastructure. With an under-the-cloud service offering, cloud service providers have laid the foundation for true network agility and cost savings that they can then pass on to customers. They can now offer more comprehensive cloud services. They differentiate their business, and they can reduce customer churn. The bottom line is this: the cloud changes everything. It requires new ways to deliver services and a new mindset for providers of services and users of them. In this new world, it's better to go under than over.